good to be on the InVINCEable.
That was lit. This man right here is a bad man.
We can do some damage on some churros down there.
Yeah!
Welcome back to InVINCEable, the show where we tell the stories of the plays, the players, and the pursuit of becoming invincible both on and off the field. My name is Vince Wolfram, and another fantastic week of college football. Week 7 is here. Came to the mailbox, and it delivered. And how we started our Saturday morning is the same as every week, right? Canyon Sharon, Dutch Bros getting it started. Hot start to the morning.
Yeah, you got to get Dutch Bros to start on a Saturday morning. When you have one near you, you got to take advantage. I'm telling you, nothing gets a Saturday started more than a Dutch Bros Golden Eagle, baby. A Golden Eagle. My Auburn Tigers had a big game, so I got the Golden Eagle in hopes that it would give them some good vibes, some good juju. Not enough. Didn't bring it up, but we'll talk about that later. Just a terrific Saturday slate. And whenever the slate has the Red River Shootout, yes, I still call it the shootout. Forgive me, but it's what it is. Ever since whenever that rivalry is on the schedule for that weekend, that's going to be an amazing weekend of college football, and I just think this weekend delivered.
Amen to that. Plenty of good games from East Coast to West Coast. I was actually down at Auburn versus Georgia. We'll get to that game and the debacle that happened in just a couple of minutes. Let's start on the West Coast, though. Indiana traveled to Oregon in Eugene. Early start for the college game day folks out there. I think it's this show starts at 9, so that's 6 a.m. to those people. Had to get out there bright and early to start celebrating football like we all wish we could on a Saturday morning. But number 7 versus number 3. Indiana, I think now it's not crazy to say they're in a national championship conversation. Am I wrong?
No, I fully would agree that Indiana is national championship contenders with the way they just dominated Oregon. They won the time of possession. They actually lost the turnover battle and still found a way to win the game. Aiden Fisher, that linebacker, he's a unit. And I think there was a graphic that showed, average weight of Oregon's offensive line versus Indiana's D-line, and there was a massive disparity there. And their D-line, their defensive coordinator actually quote tweeted it and says it looks like we have no chance in the trenches. And they did have a chance in the trenches because that's where this game was won. This game was won in the trenches. And with Fernando Mendoza doing what he needs to do. But this was a great game. It was one of those games for Oregon where you were just waiting, is that offense going to finally show up, right? It was a lot of head-scratching moments. Pardon me, Oregon lost the turnover battle. Oregon had 2 turnovers. Indiana had 1. Sorry, I misspoke there. But it was for Oregon. You were just waiting to see, is Dante Moore finally going to click it into gear? What's going to happen for Oregon? And they just couldn't. That Indiana defense was too stout. That Indiana offense was working pretty well. They got 9 more first downs than Oregon did, and they weren't amazing on third down, but they were more efficient than Oregon. Indiana was 5 for 14 on third down, whereas Oregon was 3 for 14. Those little things matter. They got over 25 more passing yards than Oregon did. I know that's not a massive difference, but in a game where you thought Oregon would take over the pass game and be that dominant passing team, I think that is a big difference there. They also got outrushed. I mean, they just lost time of possession. They just did not play that level of brand of Oregon football we expected from Dan Lanning in a rivalry matchup. Not a rivalry, but in a top matchup. And it was just shout out Indiana. They showed that they can compete in the trenches, and I think that was the biggest problem for Indiana last year, was that they were not ready in the trenches. Offensively or defensively, they were getting dominated in the trenches against these really good teams. And this is that one thing that this year there's not happening to Indiana. Indiana is dominating the trenches offensively and defensively.
Yeah, Indiana with arguably its best win in program history, right? They never beat a top 5 team on the road. It's the second time they've ever beat a top 5 team in general. And Mendoza was a magician in the RPO game. I think that's what gave Indiana a good lift. If he was running it, the defense was fooled. And if he was throwing it, the ball was getting out quick. I love his decision making, and it's hard not to because it feels like he makes the right play in the right moment. He's decisive. He gets the ball to his guys, puts the offense in good positions. 20 for 31 on the day for him, 215 yards, a touchdown, and an interception. 2 things you need on the road, a run game and defense. Both absolutely showed up for Curt Cignetti's squad. Defense had 6 sacks. Oregon had 1 rushing yard in the second, or held Oregon to 1 rushing yard in the second half, 64 yards of total offense in the second half. That's a defense that's stout. You mentioned Aiden Fisher. That's a guy I had on my list too. And in one of the most underrated defenses in the country, I would say, Indiana. I think they stepped up to the plate against Oregon, held a guy who was a Heisman Trophy contender in Dante Moore to just 5.5 yards per throw, picked him off twice. And we know college football to not be a sport that is easily welcoming new teams to the party, but it seems as Indiana has kind of stepped up in that conversation. They've made their case by beating Oregon at home. Mendoza was the difference maker for me. It seems like a lovable group of hardworking guys with a head coach that is so confident everybody wants to believe that they can beat the number one team. They could call the movie Hoosiers or something. I think it could be a hit.
Yeah, it might be a hit if they called it that. I don't know. But, dude, I was just really, really impressed with you. You mentioned Fernando Mendoza. I was impressed with him. I was impressed with their running back, Hemby. They just looked like a more complete team against Oregon, which is crazy considering the talent Oregon has on that roster. But I think for Indiana, it's one of those games where it's like, yeah, these guys, a lot of JMU transfers still, a lot of transfers from, programs where you're not expecting them to be the top dog. And these guys just show up and they show out. They're ranked number 3 for the first time ever in the AP poll, which is cool. It's historic. And I think right now this Indiana team, the way that front is playing defensively and offensively, they can win a lot of ball games. And like I said, I think they are national title contenders. And I'll call myself out here. I've been people would use the word anti-Indiana, and that's not the case, but I really was thinking Indiana was not as good as they made out to be. I know they went out and blew Illinois out, who I had ranked pretty highly, but I was still on the caution wave with Indiana, and I think now it's all aboard the Indiana hype train because I think this seems legit. They're having fun out there. They're playing well. So could this be the year for Indiana, right? You don't know. There seems to be a lot of room in college football, but they'll still have to see Ohio State likely one day, and that Ohio State defense, let me tell you, I watched them play this week. We're going to talk about it later, but that Ohio State defense, it is for real. But so is Indiana's defense, so they'll have something to say about it.
Yeah, and I think when your coach has the level of confidence that Curt Cignetti does, mixed with borderline arrogance, that can be that can give a team an edge. And for Indiana, they have edge. They have a little extra oomph to them. And I think even comparison to Indiana last year, I think this team is worlds different. Last year, I think maybe that I know you called it Indiana, the Indiana hate train, whatever you want to call it, but it was more so just a skepticism of Indiana and what they could do because we've never known them to be a football school. But when you have a guy, another Coach Saban understudy in Curt Cignetti to come lead your program, he's proving to become one of the top, definitely one of the most on fire coaches that we've seen. Now his name's getting thrown around in positions open in Pennsylvania, I hear, but I don't see it. I think he's got the edge. He brings the edge to Indiana and really shut down an Oregon team that I thought could really, really battle. And I think Dante Moore showed a little bit of his inexperience in this game. His internal clock seemed off due to Indiana's pressure from the defensive line. He wasn't finding his guys at the usual pace that he was. The progressions I didn't feel like were really there. And the numbers prove that too. His season completion percentage is 13% higher in every other game than it was on Saturday. Averaged 60 more yards in every other game than he did on Saturday. Only thrown 1 pick all year, had 2 against Indiana. So the numbers prove it. Dante Moore didn't have his best of games, but it's certainly not over for Oregon. Plenty of good games to come for them and a lot of hope still on the horizon for Dan Lanning's team. It did, in fact, though, just snap their 18-game win streak at home in regular season games. So the Hoosiers, Curt Cignetti, are rolling. Any more before we go down to a game I know you were watching pretty intensely on Saturday afternoon?
No, just last thoughts would be what a win for Indiana, what a win for that program, and that's cool to see. Everybody complained about NIL and the lack of parity in college football, and I would argue that right now with NIL, it's the most parity in this sport that we've seen in a long time, and I think that shows to the rankings each week and the upsets and the shockers. I love where college football is at right now, and shout out to Indiana. Thanks for making me eat crow, I think is the saying, and making me I was wrong, okay? I was wrong about Indiana football, and I had to admit it, take it to the chest, and I will take it to the chest. I was wrong. I doubted Fernando Mendoza. I said he wasn't even that good at Cal. He's been 10 times better at Indiana behind with that talent and their wide receivers and the weapons around them. So, yeah, I'll take the L in this one, Indiana fans. I'm sorry. I doubted you guys, but you guys are a damn good ball team, and I hope you guys continue to make some noise in the Big Ten this fall.
Hoosiers going to keep making some noise. Hopefully, Curt Cignetti will have more sound bites like he did at halftime of that CBS Sports broadcast. It was pretty funny. He got sassy on the reporter. Let's go down, though, to the Red River rivalry. You mentioned it at the very beginning of the show at the top. It was a game I know you were watching intensely. Number 6, Oklahoma versus unranked Texas. Did not think I would be saying that multiple weeks ago. Down in Dallas. Ends up being Oklahoma's 6th loss against an unranked team as an AP Top 10 team since 2019. How did this one go the way it did? Can you break this one down for me?
This one was really simple. This game was won in the trenches, offensively, defensively, and on the ground game. And if you would have told me after watching last week's Florida game that Texas offensive line would be one of the reasons they won the game, I would have looked at you shockingly. If you would have told me Texas defensive line was one of the reasons they won the game, I would have also looked at you shockingly. Last year, who knows? I'm not saying they watched what I said about them last week, right? The odds of that are slim to none. But what I said about them last week is exactly what flipped this week. Everything that Texas needed to address, they addressed it. And for the Oklahoma, you remember me saying this on the podcast, I think is our very first one or second one when I was talking about Michigan versus Oklahoma. I said if Oklahoma cannot establish a run game identity, they will struggle in the SEC. Excuse me. And I think that was evidential. They don't have a running identity, so they only rushed for 1.6 yards per rush. That is horrendous, right? That looks like what Texas did last week without at Florida and why they lost that game. Texas averaged 3.9 yards per rush and rushed for 136 yards. If you can win the running battle, you can win the turnover battle. You can win in the trenches. It's going to be damn hard to lose that game. And Texas did all 3 of those things. And they just had John Mateer in disarray. John Mateer he even said in his postgame, he said he was 100% physically fine. He felt great. But he said mentally, he clearly wasn't ready because he was not ready to step into that rivalry. And that's one of those environments that we talked about when you're talking about Oklahoma. John Mateer's never seen these types of environments, right? Like the only environment he's seen is a sold out Gaylord Memorial Stadium, and that's a great place, but that's also your home field. So when you got put in that Red River rivalry mindset, a guy like Arch Manning, who sat behind Quinn Ewers and experienced that rivalry multiple times, knows what that rivalry means, and they showed out. I think Arch Manning played a much improved game. Texas made a shift at O-line. I want to say they benched Connor Stroh for a freshman in Brooks. That shift in O-line was needed, right? Last week, that offensive line looked horrible at Florida, and this week it stepped up against an Oklahoma front that everybody raves and craves about how it's one of the best fronts in college football, and that Texas offensive line just quite frankly, did not care about what they had to say about Oklahoma and ran it up their gut, continued to run the football even when there was lack of success early on. Steve Sarkisian stuck to the run game, his guns, and he kept running the ball well. I thought this was a much-needed win for Texas, but it like I said after that Florida loss, that going to the swamp and winning is not an easy thing to do. Right? Like people don't realize that's a hard environment for Arch, and that's his second true road start. I guess he had Ohio State too, but first SEC road start. I think this was a get on track back where play the ball type of ball Texas wants to play. Their players need to get healthy. They need CJ Baxter back, and they need Wisner at 100% completely. But if they can stay healthy, this Texas team can make some noise. And this is not season's over for Oklahoma. Don't throw the all your eggs in one basket and oh no, the season's over. But if that running game can't get going, it might be season over for Oklahoma, just because you have to have a running game that is above average and consistent in the SEC play to win SEC ball games.
Yeah, totally with you. And I'm going to second your point there on Texas's game plan, because I think that's what won them the game, right? Something needed to change on the offensive line. And I thought, I didn't think they were fantastic. I thought they were just solid enough to win, and that's all that they really needed to do. They let Arch Manning, I think, get the ball out quick, which seemed to be part of the game plan too, because that's what got the offense going. Defensively, Texas's defensive line was huge. 5 sacks. Colin Simmons, a name to remember, fantastic edge rusher. I think you saw the best Texas defensive line that we've seen in a couple of weeks. And the O-line too. Oklahoma's defensive line is as good as you can probably see in college football, as is what we thought coming into this game. But I thought they were effective. Texas outscored Oklahoma 20-0 in the second half. That's the team's best second half differential in conference play since joining the SEC. So a monumental one for Texas, certainly a good one for momentum and for Arch Manning to get experience in such a big rivalry game. I think that was very, very good for them going deeper into SEC play. For Oklahoma, I thought they just kind of looked like a different ball club. Like they didn't score a touchdown. John Mateer playing just 17 days, I think, after surgery. I I think he looked uncharacteristic. He didn't look like the John Mateer we saw in the first couple of weeks of the year. It looked it, in my opinion. I know he said he was 100% physically healthy, but I don't know that he really looked it. And going 20 for 38, 202 yards and 3 picks, I think is a doozy. But I also think it was Texas's defense that caused a lot of that. I'm not giving Oklahoma an excuse by any means, and I think Mateer was the better option at quarterback versus Hawkins if you were going to go there. But just an uncharacteristic performance, I thought, from Oklahoma. And for the Sooners, the schedule gets no easier. At South Carolina, Ole Miss at home, at Tennessee, at Alabama, Missouri at home, LSU at home. That's their next from now until the end of the year, that's their schedule. So it's not going to be easy by any capacity, but I think Oklahoma, stay confident, and maybe you can make something shake in those last couple weeks. But a big statement win for Texas. Any more on this one?
Yeah, big win for Texas. And like you said, Oklahoma's schedule is not going to get any easier. For Texas, on the bright side, I think their schedule does get a little bit easier in terms of what they still have left on record. But I just impressed by Texas, more disappointed by OU. I was really kind of wondering where that brand of football was that we had seen. But clearly that's just more credit to Texas. Texas out-schemed them, and Steve Sarkisian out-coached Brent Venables. I think that was pretty apparent and obvious, like he has done 3 out of the 4 times they've played. So maybe that's a little worrisome. Oklahoma's not used to losing the Red River this often, okay? I don't know about you, but if you remember, it's a rarity when something like this happens, but not in the Red River. Anybody can always win the Red River, so I know that Oklahoma fans want Brent Venables to figure out a way to start winning that ball game a little bit more often. But shout out Texas. They played really inspired football, and they played like they were tired of getting hurt of all this Texas team soft, because they did look soft against Florida, but this team did not play soft. They played physical, fast football against Oklahoma, and that's what won them the ball game. And shout out their O-line and D-line, man. That O-line, that O-line looked really, really bad against Florida. I don't know if you remember watching the game, but it looked like there was no O-line. And if you give, I think the biggest takeaway for this should be Texas fans, if you give Arch Manning a little bit of time to actually throw the football, he can make a good read. He knows how to play football. He knows how to throw the football. And I liked how they, had designated rollout pockets and Arch using his legs. But if you give Arch Manning time, he can make the right read. But the problem is he hasn't had much time because that offensive line has not lived up to what it needs to be.
Yeah, 23-6 final in the Red River professional-looking performance from Arch Manning, the first we've seen of him, I think, this year. Probably his best game this year. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I would agree. It was probably his best game against level of competition. I would say that probably was his best game that he's played in a Texas uniform.
Yeah, I would agree with that. When you're playing the nobodies, and you can whoop up on them as much as you would like. But yeah, good win for Texas. Looking forward to SEC play for both of those programs as they look to figure it out week by week. Speaking of a team looking to figure it out, I was in Auburn, Alabama this weekend for the South's the Old South's deepest rivalry,
the Deep South's oldest rivalry is what they call it. I want to say it's called the Deep South's oldest rivalry.
After Red River rivalry, and I get this, it's a whole lot of words at a whole lot of at a lot of pace. I will say before we start, the orange out at Jordan-Hare Stadium on Saturday night, nothing but biggest props. A massive day for the Newton family. Cam Newton getting his number retired. The number 2 is officially in the rafters. At Auburn, a fantastic achievement for a guy that's arguably the best quarterback is the best quarterback in Auburn's history, a Heisman winner, 2010 national champion, getting his flowers with his family. They had a cool light show too for the fans at home. Stunk, you probably couldn't see it because you were checking out all the highlights from the other games at halftime. But the light show for Cam at half was pretty sweet. Auburn A+ in terms of fan experience for Cam and for honoring the legacy that he left at Auburn. Now, before we get to anything else, I'm not going to talk about refs first. I'm going to talk about the game, because the game is really what matters here. I know Auburn fans are going to be up in arms about the officials, and that's what it is. We'll talk about that in a second. But Auburn lost the game on the field against Georgia, right? Outside of anything that happened, penalties, officiating, what have you. Yes, the game changed in the second quarter, at the end of the second quarter, when Jackson Arnold tried the whole tush-push thing. Was it a fumble? Was it not? In real life, honestly, to me, it did look like the ball was out. In slow-mo, I know how it looks red line. I've seen the image. It could have been 17-0, but it wasn't. Deflated, numb, whatever you want to call how Auburn entered the half is how it stayed the entire second half. They had chances to do it. Before that moment, the Bulldogs had 20 total yards of offense. They're averaging less than 100 or 1.7 yards the entire game per play. After that, Georgia amassed 276 yards, over 5 yards per play. The second half was owned by Georgia. It was a tale of two halves. They forced 3 consecutive 3-and-outs. Offense scored on 2 of its first 3 drives. And Auburn, it's the mistakes you just have to cut out. I know penalties. It had 110 yards, 11 penalties. Tigers ran the ball great in the first half, which I think every Auburn fan out there was praising the Lord for, because you hadn't seen any life of a rushing attack for multiple weeks. But again, it's the lack of second half adjustments that jumped off the page. You went from run plays outside and creative draw-ups to try to get yards creatively and get Jeremiah Cobb and Damari Alston going. Running the ball is what Auburn has done for decades. And in the second half, it was different. It went back to a Plano halfback dive right up the gut, where Georgia could stop that in their sleep. But I just thought, from the on-field perspective, from the gameplay perspective, Auburn, I think, kind of shot themselves in the foot. They didn't do enough to generate any energy, any force, any yards, any chances in the second half. And that's why Georgia, who, when you play them, you sign up for 60 minutes. That's what Georgia gave Auburn in this one.
Yeah, I think it was a tale of two halves, and we can talk about, that was it a fumble, was it not a fumble? I think he crossed the plane. A lot of other people think he crossed the plane. I don't know what happened, okay? But the thing is that was a turnover, right? And then Auburn let them go 90-something yards and put up points. Like, you can't do that. If you're Auburn, you can't let them go drive down the field like that and go put points on the board before they go into half, because 10-3 feels a lot different than 10-0, right? So it's like you let them drive down there and put points on the board. And if you're Georgia, you were sitting there at halftime like, this is our ball game. Like, after everything that has happened to us, how bad we're getting outgained, and Georgia turned it around. They outgained Auburn in total yards, 296 to 277. They were 2 for 3 on fourth down, and Auburn was 1 for 3 on third down. And Auburn had 1 turnover. And when it comes to these games that are won in the trenches, won in the nitty gritty, won by the hair on your chin chin, because this score showed a 10-point differential, but it was a damn close game. You can't have that turnover, and that 1 turnover was the deciding factor. And yes, if Auburn goes up 17-0, do they probably win the game? Yes, right? I think Georgia goes in there halftime deflated, but you can't also hypothesize if Auburn would have won that game because of the fact of how bad Auburn came and looked in the second half. It looked like Auburn kind of lost all their mojo, and you can't say they lost their mojo just because that one play. I mean, good teams find a way to respond depending on how it goes or how it doesn't go. And Auburn just, they just didn't get it done in the second half. I think this is one less game Hugh Freeze. I have to watch Hugh Freeze coach a football team, so I was not that mad about it, to be honest with you. But obviously, you want to beat your rival in UGA, and I think Hugh Freeze, you could tell, was irate by the officials at halftime, walking to the locker room. But this is just something that Auburn's got to find a way to win these games, and this was not a way to win. They didn't play like they wanted to win the game in the second half. Yes, they showed up for 30 minutes of football, but like you said, when you play a team like Georgia with national title contenders every single year, they play 60 minutes of FU football. Okay, they play 60 minutes of like, I want to win this game, and Auburn only showed up for 30. And you can't actually, you could argue Auburn didn't only show up for 30. They showed up for about 28. Because when Georgia went all the way down that field like that, you can't let that happen. And yes, we can argue the roughing the passer, all these calls. At the end of the day, for Auburn to win that game, it would have had to take showing up in the second half, and Auburn did not show up in the second half, regardless of what happens in the first half. And that's the thing. Even that bad play goes your way, goes against what you think, right? You should think it should be 17-0, but you should still want to respond. Like, where was the response in the second half from Auburn? It was nowhere to be found. It feels like Auburn sat there and pouted on the sidelines because the call didn't go their way, and then they lose the game. So, yeah, I just think that this game was, once again, decided in the trenches. And even though Auburn ran the ball better than UGA had the better quarterback, I felt like, had the better play calling at times in the second half especially, and defensively, obviously, had the defense, had the Kirby Smart. It was a halftime adjustment game. I don't think people
Yes.
realize that enough.
Yes.
It was halftime adjustment game, and the halftime adjustments that were better were from Schumann and Kirby Smart defensively, and from Bobo and that staff offensively, and Gunner. I think that's what people need to realize. This game was lost in the halftime adjustments, something Hugh Freeze has not been good at all once since he arrived on the Plains.
15 yards of offense in the second half. You think you're going to beat Georgia doing that? You're wrong. And this is what I'll say about the refs. Yes, they got a lot of screen time online. They got a ton of buzz. Oh my gosh, you're never going to see the end of it kind of buzz. Here's what I'll say. If you walk away from a game having relied on either a win or a loss due to officials, your team probably just is not good enough. I'll say it. I don't mind saying that. And I'll be honest, I see it a little bit from both sides because I thought Georgia benefited a lot from the officiating, obviously, with the just the number of yards, the opportunities. The Kirby Smart timeout thing, while it had no impact really on the game, lying to the refs isn't very cool. I thought that was kind of a sleazy thing. Obviously, he's not. Come on, like
that was one of those things where it was
I think
come
any
on, Kirby.
blind.
The fact he got away with that. The fact he got away with that, though, is we asked the conversation we need to have about the refs. The fact the refs let him get away with that, because they were about to get a delay of game.
Great.
I mean, the play clock was happening. They were getting a delay of game penalty, and Kirby knew it. And Kirby was like, "Oh, I was just no, boy. You were sitting here doing this, boy. I don't know how we got this. I don't know how this goes like this."
And he said in the post game that he was for the lip readers timeout. You said time. Like, I don't know what other way to put it.
Yeah, and then for them to just give him another play.
I was shocked at how simple the game plan got for Georgia. It was Gunnar Stockton's screen pass, and when 3 to 4 yard rushes stopped working, like that's what they went to. So it was relatively simple. But Georgia didn't impress me all that much. More than I expected them to. Like, I expected them to impress me, but they kind of just did what they had to do to win the game. This is what I'll say about officials. One last thing, just so Auburn fans can put a bow on this, because like I mentioned, your team's just not good enough if you're relying on officials. You had the entire second half to do it, and you didn't do it. While it is frustrating to be a fan and to be in this cycle with after Oklahoma having the notice from the SEC release, the statement, a lot of this, a lot of talk, a lot of that. Here's what I'll say. For me, as a fan watching a college football game, I didn't just see this in the Auburn game. Here's what I think the NCAA should do. Put a shot clock on replay reviews. Give them a certain amount of time, so I'm not sitting here wasting 2 hours of my life talking about reviews. It was 39 minutes, I think, to finish the last minute and 32 seconds of the second quarter during this.
I think it was like 41. Game. I think it was 41 minutes to be exact.
Something absurd. Like, I just wanted to see Cam Newton get his jersey retired, for crying out loud. And if you don't have a shot clock and you take forever, at least start getting the calls correct. There was multiple games. Notre Dame, NC State, they had delays. All these games, they had delays. After you spend 8 years trying to get the call correct, at least get it right. If we spend all this time waiting, to ultimately not get the call right is kind of just embarrassing for the officials. And it makes it a brutal watch. We talk about college football being the most highly growing sport in the country. This is something that just frustrates a viewer. And I think that's probably universally felt. But something to speed it up. Like, give them a shot clock the same way we give the boys on the field a play clock. That's my thing. NCAA, if you want to hear me out, here I am.
Yeah, I don't know what the answer is for refs and long officiating like that, because you want them to take the time on the call. But at the same point, like, I mean, I like what they do at the ACC. Have you seen the ACC setup where, like, they plug you in to what's the replay booth is talking about? Like, why does the SEC not do that? Like, why do we not get these intercom? Like, if it's going to be this long of a talk, why do we not get to see into what the train of mind and everything, train of thought is what's happening in the booth? Because the way the ACC does that, I ain't going to lie, that's the best way. They've got it down. ACC is dominating right now with the way they're doing the replay with the officials. And I think the SEC should look into doing that as well, because it gives the viewer, when they do have to be really long and these, like, not, quick decisions, then if you give the viewer kind of the inside look of what's being talked about, they would understand why it's taking so long. And they wouldn't need a shot clock if they had context of what's actually happening. But overall, I don't know what this Auburn team's got to do.
Something's got to give, and if not, they'll beat Mercer and they'll beat Kentucky, and that'll be it. Regardless, a very tough cycle for Auburn to be in with the officiating, yada, yada, yada. Your football team's got to get a little better, and that's coming from me. Georgia has won 9 straight games against Auburn. They're owning the rivalry of late. That's a 20-10 final, and Kirby Smart with the BTA on the medical table upon leaving Jordan Air Stadium. So that was that game. Another fantastic one in the SEC. Number 8 Alabama visits number 14 Missouri. This one was a close one all the way down to the wire, but Alabama emerges victorious 27-24. What were your takeaways from this one?
Ty Simpson.
Yep.
Ty Simpson. Ty Simpson.
Yep, real.
I think it's really that simple. Ty Simpson is a game changer. He's a game wrecker. Ty Simpson doesn't really turn the ball over. If he does, he knows how he responds. Bo Pribula had 2 interceptions this game. You can't have 2 turnovers and expect to beat a team like Alabama, even though Alabama had 1 fumble themselves. But the difference maker in this game was Ty Simpson. Mizzou was 1 for 10 on third down. That's disgusting. 1 for 10 for third down. If you were to tell me they were 1 for 10 on third down and they only lost by 3 points, I would have been really shocked. But that is the case. Mizzou still put up a really good fight because Mizzou can run the ball, but really well. Amon Hardy is amazing, and they ran for 5.8 yards a carry and 163 yards against an Alabama defense that is still looking to find its identity and stopping the run for sure. Ever since that Florida State game, they're still sniffing for ways to figure out their run game, but I thought it was much improved, and I thought 163 yards on the ground for against that Mizzou running back tandem is pretty damn good. But overall, you've got to what's the word? You've got to beat Alabama with your arm sometimes, and Bo Pribula felt like he could only try to beat him with his legs, and that was not going to be good enough. And I think that showcased on their last final drive. And Bo really should have had 2 more interceptions or 1 more interception that kind of went through the defender's hands. So that Alabama defense is starting to get momentum. They're starting to play right. They're starting to bring blitzes. But yeah, the difference maker in this game is Ty Simpson. I think that's going to be a difference maker in a lot of the Bama games we talk about the rest of the season. It's going to be Ty Simpson and what he's able to do, because Ty Simpson is probably the Heisman frontrunner right now. I don't think it's ridiculous to say that. I think he'd be number 1 in my polls right now, right there with Carson Beck. But what he's able to do is just beyond impressive, and the way he's able to get people involved. I mean, he's throwing for 23 to 31 for 200 yards and 3 touchdown passes, and I don't even think 1 pass went to Ryan Williams.
Yeah,
isn't that crazy to think about? So that's what, like, it's crazy because Ryan Williams isn't even making these catches. It's guys like Brooks, Horton, it's Jam Miller coming out of the backfield, Bernard coming out, getting himself a few too, 3 for 20. So I just think that overall this Bama team is, Bama football is back. All right, it's no more debate on if they are back or not. They're back. The Florida State game was a speed bump in the road, but a speed bump in the road that they are probably looking at as one of the biggest blessings. Just kind of like how I think, Texas is going to look at the Florida game as a big blessing down the line if they can continue to win games. If you sometimes there is a such thing as a good loss, right? Like in college football, I think people need to understand that there is a such thing as a good loss, and I think that was a good loss for Bama early on. Humbled them back down to reality, and now they're playing really good team ball right now.
Kalen DeBoer has really channeled that week 1 noise, right? After losing to Florida State, you go back to ground zero. What do we need to improve on? What do we need to get better at? And I think he's been a masterful coach in figuring that out and getting to that point with Alabama. But I think the Crimson Tide might have the best resume right now in college football. And the fact that we haven't seen them at their full potential is what is most impressive. They beat Missouri in ugly fashion. Missouri coming in had the number 4 scoring offense and the number 2 scoring defense in the country. Alabama didn't do much. They just controlled. You felt the confidence was there with Alabama. Ty Simpson, Canyon, like you mentioned, 23 of 32, 200 yards, 3 touchdowns. And since the opener against Florida State, that first game that revoked them to ground zero, Simpson is completing 76% of his throws, averaging 9.7 yards per pass, and has thrown 14 touchdowns and just 1 pick. Absolutely on a tear. I think he deserves to be that Heisman front runner after the last couple of weeks that he's had nearly perfect games under center. The most interesting part of it all to me is that when I said they haven't seen them at their best, they haven't been using their best guy, Ryan Williams. 0 receptions, 0 receiving yards. They're doing it without their star receiver. Their defense is constantly getting better. LT Overton was the star for me in this one. Ahmad Hardy, I thought he got dissolved a lot. 58 yards total. Missouri, like you mentioned, 1 for 13 on third down. I just think Alabama's off to a fiery start. First 3-0 start in SEC play. First 3-0 start against all AP-ranked teams in SEC play in program history. They're now 4-0 in true road games at Mizzou. Mizzou impressed me. I honestly thought they battled to see their ability to fight back and to try to win this game. Realistically, like, they had a shot at the end of the game. I know it resulted in an interception, but this is one that if decisions were made maybe differently on that final drive, it could have been a big upset. Bo Pribula, third game of the season with 2 or more passing touchdowns and a rushing touchdown. He has more such games than any other SEC quarterback. So don't count out Mizzou, I think, for this loss in this game. It's only their first loss of the year. A lot of SEC play left. And while they have lost 4 straight games to AP-ranked teams, I think this team is a little different than the previous Mizzou squads we've seen.
Yeah, I think Coach Strink will have them boys ready to play next week, and they're still a team to watch for sure. Like I said, they only lost by 3. The sky's not falling, but at the same point, you would have loved to win that game. You're at home. Would have been a huge momentum swing in terms of your season on the pendulum pole. But at the same point, there's still so much, there's still so much for them to gain back. It's only 1 loss. Bo Pribula still looked impressive. He's just got to clean up the turnover battle. But that's a Bama secondary that's also really, really talented. I think people don't understand that Bama team is really good. It's still Bama football, guys. Okay, yeah. I think we questioned that after the Week 1 Florida State game. We called a question: is this Bama football? It's still Bama football. And then those players are playing Bama football for sure.
27-24 final there. Alabama emerges victorious. Let's go back now to the Big Ten, another ranked matchup in Week 7. Number 1 Ohio State visiting number 17 Illinois. Ohio State, shocker. Their defense is a little human, right? Oh my God, they allowed 16 points. Well, they're still really, really absurdly good on defense. Yes, they allowed 16 points. Illinois 4 for 13 on third down, average 1.7 yards per carry. Altmaier never seemed comfortable to me in this game, and how could you be, right, against this Matt Patricia defense? It's like they have wings. They fly around so fast. Caleb Downs to Sonny Styles. This is an future NFL caliber defense, right? So many guys that are going to take that next jump. You actually have to beat this defense. You can't just play well and hope to win. You have to do something that is either out game planning or outperforming this defense. And that's going to be hard, I think, for a lot of teams to do because, 1, they're more talented than you, and 2, they're probably better coached than you as a collective. So this Ohio State defense, very, very hard to stop, and I thought the offense kind of just had to be pedestrian-like, right? Julian saying 19 of 27, 166 yards and 2 touchdowns, understands exactly what needs to be done, doesn't have to do much more. Pedestrian-like, I think, is a pretty decent way to put it because it's working. He doesn't have to do much more. They would run the ball until they couldn't get the big gains that they wanted, and then they would set Sayin up for a pass that would advance him. Find Jeremiah Smith, good things happen in this one. I thought it was pretty easy for Ohio State.
Yeah, for me, I need to eat crow once again on Illinois. I had them really high in the preseason polls. I thought Luke Altmaier would kind of show out this fall, and he has not done that. But overall, dude, this Bama defense, you mentioned kind of everything I was going to say. Having Caleb Downs, man, Caleb Downs might be the number 1 overall pick in the NFL draft. And I don't stutter when I say that. What he does to an offense, the way he used him as like a Swiss Army knife, and they can move him around and play him anywhere. Right now they've got him playing the start sometimes, and he's playing up back at free safety, and they just move him around, and they make him so versatile in Matt Patricia's defense. I know Matt Patricia's having a lot of fun coaching him. And to be honest, Illinois, they still had more yards than Ohio State, but the one thing that really shot them in the foot was they had 3 turnovers, and that's a credit to the Ohio State defense. When you can force turnovers like that, you're usually going to win the ball game. And they won that turnover battle 3-0. Ohio State did. Illinois had 3. Ohio State had 0. And like you said, Julian's saying he's just doing what he needs to do. That's one thing. He's not turning over the ball. He's not making mistakes. He's just doing what he needs to do. And his job right now is so simple. It's, don't force the ball. Get the balls to Carnell Tate and Jeremiah Smith when needed, and just get first downs. And Ryan Day and Brian Hartline, I think, who's their OC now, just calling beautiful games for him just to play calm football. You don't need to try to stretch the field, or we don't need that big bang play right now. And that's the thing. Illinois, they had more first downs than Ohio State. They were on the field only 7 less minutes than Ohio State. They were doing some good things, but Ohio State completely shut down their running game, they were 1.7 yards per rush, and that's just really bad. But Illinois outpassed Ohio State. It's kind of crazy when you think about it. Like they were but then Ohio State had more yards per attempt. So we can do these stat matchups back and forth, but it's what the stat that you can't see is you can't see the Caleb Downs stat, and he affects the turnovers. The turnovers are the easiest stat to understand why Ohio State, they scored 21 points off 3 turnovers. And when you can convert turnovers to points, you're usually going to win the ball game pretty well.
Good win for Ohio State. I figured it would be this kind of game where, yes, Illinois' offense is pretty good. They might put some points on the board, but Ohio State would control and roll, and that's exactly what they did. Now that we're through the big games of the week, let's take a look at the top 25 and more. Let's head to the poll patrol, your fast pass through the top 25. How do you want to do it? You want odds? You want evens? It's your choice this week. What are you picking?
I'll take evens this week because that gives me one more chance to talk about Texas, Oklahoma.
All right, now let's do it. Ohio State at number 1, just talked about it, beats number 17, Illinois on the road. Good win. A big win in Big Ten standards. Good one for Ohio State moving forward.
Number 2 was on a bye. The Miami Hurricanes were on a bye this week.
Yep, on a bye week. Number 3, Oregon falls to Curt Cignetti and the boys via Google, 30-20. Already spoke about that one. Number 4, Ole Miss.
Number 4, Ole Miss had a weird game. I'm actually shocked we didn't talk about it. They let Washington State compete with them. They ended up winning 24-21, but really, really weird game for Ole Miss fans, and you were probably shaking in your boots a little bit, but you found a way to catch a win, and sometimes that's all you have to do. You just have to find a way to win, and that's what they did. So no stress in Ole Miss yet, but they were stressed on Saturday, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's always okay to come away with a win by the skin of your teeth. That's what Ole Miss did. First 6-0 start in just a couple of years since 2022 for the Rebels. Number 5, Texas A&M. This was honestly a game I was really looking forward to. And the first half, it was bah, 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 bah. They were throwing punches, touchdown, 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 touchdown. Texas A&M, second half, they won the game 34-17. A&M's first 6-0 start to the season since 2016. Good win for the Aggies and Mike Elko. They're staying hot.
Kyle Field, baby. That place is hard to play at. We got number 6, Oklahoma and Texas. Unranked Texas beat number 6, Oklahoma 23-6. Yeah, all I got to say right here is hook 'em, baby. All right, I stick to my roots. I even got a Nebraska shirt on, and I know OU fans hate that too, all right? Guess what, though, baby? Hey, so hook 'em. I loved that win. To everybody who prayed on my downfall and the Texas loss, you lost, okay? I won. I used a little reverse jinx. I like to think about the TND curse. I picked Texas to get blown out by OU in my hot takes just so I could have the confidence that Texas would win that game. That's called using the TND reverse jinx in my favor and hook 'em, baby. All right.
And it totally worked. I'm happy for you.
It worked in perfection. I gotta like make fun of my team a little bit for them to actually live up to the hype. And if I can do that every week, if that's all I gotta do to my teams, just start picking them to get blown out and it helps them win, I might just have to do that more often. I might have to look into doing it for Auburn. But the thing with Auburn is I still don't think they'd get it done. So
no,
that's a compliment for a different day.
There's going to be that one idiot out there that just reads hot takes and just thinks you hate Texas all of a sudden when really they need to listen to the pod and see what's really going on.
They don't know that I'm out here reverse jinxing in my favor. Right? Yeah. They don't even know about all that.
They're not on the same wavelength. Number 7, Indiana, biggest win in probably its program's history. Curt Cignetti and the boys are on fire.
Alabama, Mizzou. We talked about this one in long haul. Alabama, number 8. Alabama versus number 14, Mizzou. Alabama finds a way to win 27-24, and Ty Simpson is still a dog, a D-A-W-G dog.
Dog. Texas Tech at number 9. They stay hot at home. 42-17 win over the Kansas Jayhawks. Dominated Kansas despite losing starting quarterback Morton, but won thanks to Cameron Dickey on the ground. Ran for 263 yards and a pair of touchdowns. A massive day for them on the ground. Texas Tech 6-0 for the first time since 2013. Those boys are rolling.
Dude, I've told you when the season started, I said a team from Texas is going to win the Big 12. I don't know who it's going to be, but it's going to be a Texas team, and it's looking like the Texas Tech that is their conference to lose right now. They
Most
look really
underrated
good.
team in America, in my opinion.
They're playing
People
some
are not
damn good
giving them
ball.
enough eyes.
They're playing some damn good ball. Number 10, Georgia versus unranked Auburn. Georgia wins 20-10. Auburn fans, You're used to it. It's okay. Just buck up the
I feel
heartbreak.
for him. I mean, it's tough. It's a tough cycle to be in, but you got to break cycle at some point if you want to switch that up. Number 11,
Yep.
LSU got battle tested by South Carolina in Baton Rouge. Ended up winning 20-10. LSU 9 straight wins against South Carolina. This one was kind of ugly. Nussmeier a little shaken up, comes back. Offense did not look really good at all. This LSU team, plenty of question marks swirling about how good that team will be when they're at their best.
Yeah, number 12, Tennessee versus Arkansas. Another team that got a little scare.
Yeah.
Arkansas scored 31. Tennessee scored 34. A little fourth quarter rally from Arkansas to kind of put themselves back in it, but still not enough gas in the tank to beat a Joey Aguilar-led Tennessee team and Josh Heupel and co.
Yeah, Tennessee got thrown in the fire there with old Bobby Petrino after the Sam Pittman firing. Also didn't know that win for Tennessee snapped a 4-game losing streak against Arkansas. So glad that they got that crappy taste out of their mouth and got a win. Number 13, Georgia Tech beats Virginia Tech at home 35-20. Georgia Tech 6-0 for just the second time since joining the ACC in 1979. That's plenty of years ago, my friends. So Georgia Tech off to a very good start with the Bramlett Wreck.
Number 14, I believe they were on a bye.
Missouri.
I'm so sorry.
Missouri,
I can't see it on my
close one.
scoreboard rundown. He's looking at it. He's looking at it the smart way. I'm looking at it the slow person way. So that's just where we're at right now. Yeah, but Missouri, we already talked about them.
Yep, number 15, Michigan goes all the way to Rose Bowl. Everybody knows stadium's going to be packed because Michigan's there, right? You get skunked. Jaden Maviala, 31-13. Michigan upended in a game that was more about the Wolverines and what they were lacking than I think what USC might be capable of accomplishing, which I think is unfortunate because I think USC's a pretty darn good team, and Michigan really just folded. I also wonder, is it all part of Michigan's master plan to lure Ohio State into believing that maybe they aren't as good coming up to their game in late November? Just a thought, something to think about.
Also, one quick shout out in that game. They had a walk-on running back that was a freshman in King Miller, rushed for 158 yards and a touchdown. I feel like that is a storyline that needs to be talked about. Shout out USC. That's amazing, dude. Having a freshman walk-on come on and do that and help you lead a win. You gotta love the walk-on stories. Am I right? Come on, man. Like the Michael Taft story at Texas, like from a walk-on to a all SEC, just beautiful stories right there. And then number 16, Notre Dame. I'm stealing it from my boy who's a Notre Dame fan down there. Notre Dame wins 36-7 against NC State. NC State team that people had a little bit of hope for going into the season, but that hope is all gone because they are not that good at football.
No, first half the Irish struggled a little bit. Second half, looked up at the scoreboard in JHS, 36-7, dominant. Notre Dame 23 consecutive home wins against ACC opponents since 2017. So they're doing better than some ACC teams, and they're not even in the conference. So number 17, Illinois, that gets skunked by Ohio State team. I've said a little bit has been overrated, but that's just me.
Number 18, BYU against Arizona. A little overtime thriller. They win 33-27 at Arizona. BYU's another of those teams. BYU's another one of them teams. If someone's going to win, if someone's going to win the Big 12, BYU wants their head in the conversation. That means that BYU versus Utah battle is going to be insane.
Yeah, if you official ref people want to watch a good game where you had some drama going down at the end of this game is actually wild going down the stretch. BYU trailed by a touchdown, 2:40 to play. Final drive, 7 plays, all the way down to the 8-yard line. They had a fumble, 2 replay reviews, 2 penalties that gave BYU a fresh set of downs. They managed to tie it, take it to overtime, and they ended up winning. A big one for BYU to stay undefeated. Started 6-0 in consecutive seasons for the first time ever in school history. They're on a roll. Let's take a look. 19 Virginia on a bye week, 20 Vanderbilt on a bye week, 21 Arizona State. They get absolutely flooded by an extremely powerful grade 8 Utah offense, 42-10. I know Utah Utes are your boys. 32-point win over Arizona State, third largest win over an AP ranked team.
It's still go Utes, and I'm still repping that Utes gear, okay? It's not chilly enough for me to put on the jackets or the sweatpants yet in Texas. It's still too damn hot. But I've already worn the long sleeve, the dry fit long sleeve, the shirt I wear to the gym. I almost wore it today, but fun fact, I guess it was dirty. Need to do laundry around here. But yeah, gotta love the Utes right now and what they're able to do. Number 22, Iowa State. Excuse me. They lose to Colorado 24-17. Second loss for Iowa State, and Colorado rushed the field. Coach Prime was shocked to hear that they would get fined $50,000 for it. He was in shock. He said, "Where do I pay?" Because clearly Coach Prime wants to have his fans. He said 50. He looked shocked when he was told that it was $50,000 fine. He's like, "Where do we pay?" It was his thought
He didn't know what the
process.
situation was.
Yeah, he had no clue that if you're a field, you rush the field, you owe the Big 12 $50,000. But hey, he would do it again if he could. Because why not? If you're Colorado, you're searching for that win, and they finally got it. So
Exactly. And for Colorado, Salter looks really good when he wants to be. He looked really good, I thought, in this one. And the crowd storming the field, making, I think, the most excited anyone has ever been about something involving the state of Iowa. So good win for Dion and the Colorado Buffs. Number 23, Memphis. They were on a bye week. They're back in action next week, though. 24.
who was 24? Oh,
South Florida.
USF. I'm so sorry. South Florida, you played on Friday. You're not on my vision board right now that I can see on my computer. You guys demolished North Texas. North Texas was 4.5-point favorites, by the way. North Texas was the favorites going in this game, and they won 63-26. Them boys from South
that's
Florida.
A lot of points.
Them boys from South Florida, baby. They're playing football, and Alex Golesh, if he might be having a phone call coming up here soon about a new little upgrade stepping stone offer. So we'll see what South Florida can do to keep them there. Yeah, 4 touchdowns from USF in a span of just 3 minutes and 37 on the game clock. They were down 21-14, and before the half, they were up 42-21. So one that quite literally flipped on its head quicker than you could blink. Number 25, Florida State, they moved to 0-3 in ACC play after the Pitt Panthers come to the Doak and sneak out with a 34-31 win. I know there's a lot of question marks swirling over there too. It's pandemonium in Tallahassee right now, trying to figure out what the heck happened to that Week 1 squad. Yep. They want Mike Norvell gone. That's what I've been. That's what I'm hearing too. That's kind of what I'm seeing and hearing. That's what the chirping's about. They want Mike Norvell gone. But the question is, who are you going to go find that's better than him? But I saw my buddy who's he's a Florida State graduate. He sent me a tweet and it said, "Don't let anybody convince you that there's not a coach in the country right now that would be 0-3 in the ACC play too." Basically emphasizing that Mike Norvell is the only coach in the country that isn't the reason why they're 0-3. And I don't know. Their offense just has not looked good. Tommy Casamigos, I don't know if they call him that anymore because he just has not been playing their good ball either. But Pitt, what about that freshman QB that came into that game and had himself a dog of a game? So shout out Pitt and the Panthers and Pat Narduzzi's squad. Get a nice little win there. Definitely. Let's take a look at some other games to note from this week. There's plenty. I have 4 written down, which I think is a new career high for Vince on this program. UCLA, second straight win, this time on the road in East Lansing, 38-13. Seem to be controlling their own destiny right now under its new leadership. I thought Cincinnati had a good win against UCF at home, 20-11. And quick blind comparison here because I saw this and I had to mention. QBA, that's what we're going to call QBA, 87.3 QBR, 9.8 yards per pass, 14 touchdowns and 1 pick. Keep that in mind. QBB, 84.4 QBR, 10.8 yards per pass, 14 touchdowns, no pick. Quarterback A is Ty Simpson since the Florida State game. Quarterback B is Brendan Swordsby since Cincinnati's Week 1 loss to Nebraska. One of the most underrated, maybe overlooked quarterbacks in the country, but he's got Cincinnati in massive Big 12 hunt conversation on its longest win streak since they've entered the Big 12. And the last 2, for me, Nebraska, they get a much-needed win over a win-starving Maryland team in a close one, 34-31. Nebraska 3 turnovers against Maryland after not turning the ball over 3 times the entire season. So an interesting one there. And lastly, Navy. They went down to the wire in Philadelphia with Temple, but owns the scoreboard by 1 point when the clock hits 0, 32-31. So those were the 4 non-ranked matchups that stood out to me. Was there any from your seat? KSU, the team that just went FBS, they're 4-2, by the way, and they beat Louisiana Tech 35-7. I think that's a game that we would be doing ourselves a disservice to talk about. Washington beat Rutgers. Washington's now 5-1, and their only loss being to the Ohio State. So I think overall, we kind of hit the nail on the head about majority of the games. You already shouted out UCLA. That was a big win. SMU's now 2-0 in the ACC. It's another team where you let them get hot in the ACC, they can make some noise. And shout out Curt Cignetti's old school JMU. They're off to a 5-1 start in the Sun Belt, like I like to call it, the Fun Belt. And did we shout out Northwestern?
No, please do. Please do.
Oh my gosh. Shout out Northwestern. They took a man's job away in the process of catching a win, but Northwestern beats Penn State 22-21. Big upset. And then another one I had my eyes on this weekend that really kind of threw me for a loop was Kansas State blew out TCU. A Kansas State team that we left like in the dust. They didn't even get on the boat. We left them back there. But they're finding ways to get wins again, which is good for them. And that's good for that ball club. And I think that's all I really got today. UTSA found a way to win again. I love me some UTSA, the Meep Meeps, Jeff Traylor. Love that staff and that co. So, yeah, that was another big win. That's everything I got, though.
Yeah, let's talk, because the Penn State conversation is interesting, and we're recording this on Monday to be released Monday night. Big news from Penn State, right? Less than a month ago, the Nittany Lions had massive championship aspirations. Even 2 weeks ago, when College Game Day was there for the whiteout, a lot of stuff riding on that Oregon win. But since then, I mean, it's been crazy. The school is looking for a new head coach now, as James Franklin was fired on Sunday. The fall, I think, was pretty historic, I guess is the way to put it, right? Like a couple of weeks ago, the difference between a couple of weeks ago and now is so vastly different. Where will Penn State go from here? I don't know, but with the buyout that he has, the firing is pretty interesting. I'm interested to hear your thoughts on this and maybe where you think they should go, because I'm not someone, I don't know, I've heard the name Cignetti get thrown around. I've heard the Marcus Freemans. I think, as we mentioned on the show before, go get a young guy for sure. Just find the right one. I don't think Penn State is in that upper. I don't think Cignetti would leave Indiana to go there and what he's building. I don't think Freeman is leaving Notre Dame and what he's built over there to go be a coach at Penn State. I don't think Dabo is leaving Clemson to go be the Penn State head coach. That's just my thought. I think somebody maybe like a Matt Rule, or maybe somebody like Matt Campbell from Iowa State, somebody like that, that can step in and really grow the program and try to take it to that new height might be a better option. Manny Diaz even at Duke. But those are my options. I'm curious to hear your thoughts on the James Franklin situation and where you think Penn State might go.
Yeah, talk about falling off of a mountain, right? What a fall.
Yeah.
If they, like you said, they just had College Game Day, they had everybody there, and now James Franklin's, he made a joke about how he watches college football, on College Game Day. And, well, Coach, we have some news for you. You can watch college football exactly how you want to watch it. And I think they said in your underwear or ever how you said you watch college football.
Crazy.
So you can go enjoy that and watch as much college football as you want. Yeah, I like the name that you threw out there with Matt Rule. I think Matt Rule will be a name that they definitely circle back into. I don't think they're going to go for – I don't know, right? That's the thing about Penn State is I don't really know what they're going to go for from a coach. Could they go for a guy like Alex Golish? Do they want that young offensive? Do they want a perennial? The problem with Penn State is, are they going to go a defensive guy per usual, or are they going to go an offensive guy? I think that's the question that you have to do. And Manny Diaz did coach at Penn State, and Manny Diaz is doing himself a fine job at Duke. So you wonder if that could be a name that they do get invested into. But I think Matt Rule is a name to keep an eye on. I think Manny Diaz is another name to keep an eye on. Alex Golish, if they really reach, but I don't think they'll go for a guy like Alex Golish just because they don't like offensive-minded guys. They like defensive-minded guys at Penn State. That's kind of their mantra there. Maybe they'll switch it up, and maybe that won't be the case. But, yeah, just a fall from grace for James Franklin, and honestly just feel kind of bad for him. That's hard, right? Like his team was so much hope and just completely lost the mojo and the sauce of the season. But that's what happens in college football, man. That's the beauty of it. You can't predict it. It's unpredictable. Drew Allar out for the season too. Doesn't help them at all. Which you wonder if Drew Allar will even be at Penn State next year. Does he enter the portal with the new head coach? So there's a lot of question marks if you're a Penn State fan, but I'm sorry. Last week I gave you guys false hope, and I said there might still be a chance you could sneak into the playoff. That was wrong. I'm sorry. I lied to you. There's no way you're sneaking into the playoff now. I don't think maybe you'd be the first ever 3-loss team, but oh boy, would you have to do a lot of the unthinkable to make that happen. I just don't see it happening. Not especially without a head coach anymore.
No, I don't think so either. And I think, too, it's worth highlighting that Franklin, when he came into Penn State, was in a dumpster fire of situation, coming off the whole Paterno, dealio. I'm not going to get into any of that stuff. But taking it from a terrible place, right? I feel like that's pretty fair to say. Took it from a terrible place to one of the top programs in the top 25, at least, of this season and of previous seasons. Plenty of NFL players. So a good job, but I think you're right. It totally had run its course, and I think it's good timing for this. It just makes sense. But let's get away
Can
from
Auburn do the same thing?
Maybe. We'll see, because they have college football has fired plenty of coaches so far this season. You look at Stanford, UCLA, Oregon State, Oklahoma State, now Penn State. What others? There's more.
And there needs to be an Auburn one. I'm waiting for the Auburn announcement.
From what I'm hearing from my brother, that there might be some other ones on the rise here.
Who knows? We'll see what happens with you, Freeze.
Well, I'm also curious to see where James Franklin finds a new home, because that will be interesting to see, because he is such a program builder, and that's at least what he proved at Penn State. Let's stop talking about coaches, start talking about games here. All right, segment 1 here. Let's go to the culture check, everybody's favorite segment, where we talk about which programs showed identity, energy, or chemistry from week 6 to week 7. Who is your culture check of week 7 of college football?
Texas offensive line, Texas defensive line. Hook 'em. I think both sides, their offensive line, their defensive line was there. It was present, and it was not. It was more than just there. It was really good. And that's exactly what Texas needed, was some good offensive line play and some good defensive line play.
Definitely, I'm with you on that. Great culture check for the week. Way to start it off. 2 things were clear after Saturday of week 1. Florida State was back, and Alabama stinks. Well, 6 weeks later, things look a little different, don't they? Ty Simpson, another 3-touchdown heater in their win. Another victory for DeBoer's Black Hoodie of Death, I noticed. So they handed Missouri. Missouri was the 5th straight team to be handed its first loss of the season by Alabama. They're coming in. They're doing damage. Florida State, they're on the opposite side of the culture check. They need to check themselves out. They lose to Pitt 34-31. It's gone 386 days without a win in the ACC, and they let Pitt freshman quarterback throw for 321 yards. They've surrendered points on 17 of 33 drives in their 3-game losing skid, so they gotta figure it out. And a really funny stat: since September 22nd of 2024, 46 different schools have more wins versus the ACC than Florida State does. Figure it out. All right, let's go. Swagger Watch. Who is a player from week 7 that stood out to you that you think could have a very star-studded rest of the season?
It's not a player, it's a defensive unit. I'm taking Ohio State's defense for my Swagger Watch. With the way they forced 3 turnovers and just dominated Illinois defensively. I know Illinois scored some points there, especially 6, and putting up 16, but 16 in comparison was nothing. They were just dominated by Ohio State. It was 23 at half, and that defense, they may have let up a little bit of points in the second half, but they were in full control of that game.
I'm going to go not a player too, and I'm actually going to go with a group of others. Interim coaches. Let's go. UCLA, they're on a roll after firing Deshaun Foster, Tim Skipper, Jerry Neuheisel, mollywopped Michigan State. I heard that Tim Skipper on the flight to East Lansing left a note on each seat of the airplane that read, "Are you a one-hit wonder?" Canyon, fire me up. That would have me ready to run through walls for my interim head coach. UCLA, they put up 80 points against Penn State and Michigan State the past 2 weeks in total, with Jerry Neuheisel calling the plays. It's new life for UCLA.
Yep, that's a good one. I like that Swagger Watch. It is new life for UCLA, and yeah, fire me up. That sounds kind of electric. What the note say again? Run that back to me one more time.
Are you a one-hit wonder? Absolutely not.
Golly, are you a one-hit wonder? Golly, coach.
Gets me going. All right.
Fire me up then.
That's what I'm saying. See, it's got me turned up lit in my seat. All right, here we go. Flip-flop pick. Confess one prediction you were dead wrong about after week 7.
I think I was dead wrong about Texas being dead in the water. After the Florida game, I was really not seeing much from Texas. I thought that offensive line couldn't improve much. I did think Texas was kind of dead in the water this year, and it was a rebuild year with 4 to 5 new offensive linemen. But guess what? Them offensive linemen and everybody showed up. So that was my flip pick, or my flop pick, I guess, was that I thought Texas was cooked and they weren't cooked.
Yep, mine was actually the game I was at. I signed up for what was to be a good game to watch. That's why I flopped, because it stunk. So that's my flip-flop pick for the week. I will say I did pick Indiana. I was pretty proud of it. They're just a couple hours away from me here in Louisville, Kentucky. Proud of Cignetti and those boys showing up and making some shake. Let's take a look now at the best games on the schedule for Week 8. I mean, we've got a doozy on our hands next week. Plenty of great games. A lot of ranked teams playing ranked teams. And if they're not playing ranked teams, they were playing teams that were ranked at some point. So we're going to have ourselves an episode, I think, next week. I mean, you can go down the carousel as fast as we please here. Louisville at Miami on Friday. Tee me up on Friday. Number 10 LSU at number 17 Vanderbilt, number 12 Georgia Tech at Duke, Tennessee at Alabama, USC at Notre Dame. I mean, you could take it. I just know that we could go for days with how many great games there are next week.
Yeah, you got South Carolina hosting Oklahoma. You got Michigan State, Indiana, A&M, Arkansas, which is a rivalry matchup. Ole Miss, Georgia, which will be a good one. You've got Texas versus Kentucky, which should be a good one. We've got another rivalry next weekend with number 11 Tennessee and number 6 Bama. That'll be Electric Factory. We've got Auburn hosting number 16 Missouri. And then we've got, I think it's called the Holy War of Utah versus BYU. I don't want to be wrong. So I'm sorry if I am wrong, but we've got number 23 Utah and number 15 BYU, an undefeated matchup at 7 o'clock on Fox. And that'll be the place to be. That'll be one of the best games of the week. Number 23 Utah versus number 15 BYU. I expect Utah to win that one, but the spread right now is in favor of Utah 3.5.
All right, I like it. Plus, I mean, you get Texas Tech at Arizona State next week, A&M at Arkansas. After Bobby Petrino gave Tennessee a scare. I forget which games we already said. Michigan State at Indiana, Ohio State at Wisconsin, Washington at Michigan. Like, dial me up. This is going to be a good one. Memphis at UAB, Trent Dilfer, and these jobs might be on the hot seat there too. Oregon, one of those cross-country games against Big Ten rival Rutgers. We got good games. Penn State at Iowa. Let's see if Penn State, what they can figure out with the new quarterback, new coach against Iowa. That's not an easy task. Plenty of fantastic games going into Week 8.
Indubitably, my friend, indubitably. It'll be a great weekend of college football.
Going to be a great one, and I think we can tie a bow on this one because we've been talking ball, we've been talking firings, we've hit on a lot of things. A lot of things just happened this week. So plenty to talk about, plenty to catch up on. Yep, I agree. What a great weekend to talk ball. And I think I was supposed to do my outro there is what he was referencing at me. I wasn't ready for it. But what other thoughts you got before we
It was a great week of ball, great talk of ball, per my buddy Vince. We had to rally through some issues, some technicality issues this week. We didn't know how we were going to get this done, but we got it done. That's why it's a little late. Also, my boy was driving in from Auburn, so I wanted him to just be able to rest last night, and we get after it today, which we did. And recording this early for you guys. We tried to record it even earlier so you guys could get it a little earlier. But I think it'll drop when my boy down here works his magic. He's got to do his editing and such. But thank you guys for tuning in. Make sure you subscribe to Vince's YouTube because he's a dog and he does all the editing for this stuff and he makes my clips for me. He is a one-man wrecking machine that I love to have. We're basically a team, all right? And I'll tell you right now, I don't know if I'm the center or the quarterback. I might be the quarterback, but I have the best damn center in the country in Vince Wolfram. So that's all I got for today.
Come on. Hey, if I'm quarterbacking, I want my receiver. I want the TD to show up in the receiver stats too. Best duo in the league. I saw a comment on our YouTube a couple weeks ago, the best podcast in all of college football. So if you guys believe it, make sure to hype it up. Let us know in the comments. Share our podcast. Tell your friends. Tell your homies. Tell your mama. Great things coming. College football next week is going to be a blast, so make sure you stay tuned. Give this episode a like, comment, and subscribe. Stay tuned for clips all week long, and if you don't know where to go, you're living under a rock. Alongside Canyon Sheeran, my name is Vince Wolfram. This has been Invincible. We'll see you next time.